Sandra ma'am is just joining soon, so let's wait for 5 minutes. So Sandra ma'am will take some time. So could we start with Safi Sahib?
Yeah, just 1 second. I've just lost my screen. Wait. It's all vanished. I don't know how I can hear you. I'm all lost. 1 second.
Safi Sahib, if it's creating an issue, then do you want to share the PPT or should we share the PPT?
I would like to share it because I made some changes, but just 1 minute. I
Okay.
am just a very old 60-year-old man, and I've just found it.
No,
Yes,
that's
ma'am. So how much time have you given me? I'm ready. I can share the PPT. How much time do you give me?
so. Yeah, Sandra ma'am is back. So Shafi Sahib, you would like to, or should
Yeah.
I?
Yeah, I'm happy to start now.
Okay, sir.
And tell me if you can see my screen.
Um,
Can
yeah,
you see it?
yeah.
Now we can. Thank you.
Okay. So, are you seeing it with these four people's pictures or not? How do I get rid of now it's better. Is it a clear screen now? Oh, what's happening?
Yeah, it's we can see.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay. So this was the subject given to me. I'll try and do it this in 10 to 12 minutes. And please like interrupt me in 10th minute or 11th minute. So the first thing is basically I've got around 9 more slides now. So shared vulnerabilities between the Indian nation and the African continent. The African continent has so much more population, so many more countries, and it is much larger in size. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a better visualization. Otherwise, I would have made Africa much larger, and we should see each country as a country rather than as a continent. So I have these 4 key points. Health infrastructure is something that both of us, Africa as well as India, have an issue with. We have a large population. We've not been very rich countries, and we have always been colonially exploited. Urbanization, the speed with which urbanization is rising in both regions, and the urban heat island effect. Then economic reality, as I just mentioned, is a big issue. We are all growing middle income nations and always wanting to grow fast and faster. And the climate overlap to some extent is there, to many extents it's not. one of the biggest differences the Himalayas, where we have serious issues with regard to melting ice, glacial melt, and the impact of heat. On the second thing, I'd just like to share one of those scary things that all our climate experts and disaster management experts keep showing us all the time of how it's so hot. So this dark red line, this is taken from Climate Reanalyzer. The dark red line is 2026, the light one is 2025, and the ones behind that, the higher ones are 2024 and 2023. So 26, 25, 24, 23, and 2016. These five were the hottest years on Earth, of which 26, 25, 24, and 23 are the hottest years on Earth. So yes, we have a problem. We have already crossed plus 1.5, and this is all daily surface air temperature, an average of that. So, oh God, what has happened? How did it vanish? Yeah, it's back now. You can see the screen.
Yes, we can.
Is it okay now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Then this is the daily sea surface temperature. Over so many years, it's showing 2008. Actually, the lowest one is about 1940. So same story there, 2026, 25, 24, 23, hottest years on Earth. And all of us as disaster experts, we know the impact of a hot sea on land and how it is increasing extreme weather events, the kind of sudden rain and more rain in a sudden smaller pocket than in others, and then the heat issues that it creates on land. So this is the general scary picture of on Earth. Then we come to what are the five big effects that we see in India. We would definitely like to hear from the colleagues from the other part of this conference. So one is extreme heat exposure, physiological strain to the human body, which we have been talking about. Lots of scientists write about all kinds of heat, extended heat indexes, and all that. All these get tend to scare everybody. Lost labor hours is a very serious issue, especially in torrential rain as well as in massive heat days, and especially for outdoor labor. Income depletion, a very important point that we've been looking at from the insurance point of view, and reduced adaptive capacity only because of the pressures that we have on our entire infrastructure. Now, this is largely with regard to human beings. There are four other sectors that, I mean, at least Government of India has massive ministries to deal with all this. The animals. We almost neglect animals. In India, at least the population of animals to humans, especially the livestock, is 3:1. So 3x of the human population has exactly the same problems as you and I. So this, there's an entire ministry called Ministry of Animal Husbandry, is something that we put in a lot of work on, especially because it really directly linked to the economy as well. Crops, the Agriculture Ministry has a very important section which focuses on resilience, and crops is treated as a completely different subject from human health. Water is a very well-known problem, and currently with the oncoming, the very unhappy little girl child El Nino, this water is going to be a serious issue in the next 2 months. I'm sure it'll be an issue in the African region as well. Infrastructure is something that over the years, because of this hot weather, with 100,000 kilometer long railway line that we have, we've learned to live with very, very hot temperatures, and our signaling, our power systems for the railway lines, then the dams and various other things. There's been a fair bit of resilience that is now inbuilt within infrastructure. Yet we have to wake up to the fact that plus 1.5 can go to plus 2. So that's something we really need to not look forward to, but we have to prepare for. So essentially, it's health, whether it's animals or water or it's humans, livelihoods, as was shown in the previous slides, and infrastructure. These three are the large silos that we work on. We work with CDRI, we work with National Disaster Management Authority in Government of India, which is the policy making body. It gets all the funds and advises the government where to send the funds. Then for every state, we have 36 states and union territories, essentially 36 jurisdictions. Every state has a state disaster management authority. And then we have NIDM, National Institute of Disaster Management. And recently we've created with global partners, several of them are from your region, the CDRI, the Center for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. So this is the policy structure that looks at all this. Heat is one of our most important silos. Here is some more scaremongering. Oh my God, there I go again. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah. Um, yeah. So increase in frequency of very hot days is the map on the right. This one shows that in Western India, Northern India, and Northeast India, which is as it is still very hot, these areas are getting hotter. So the number of very hot days in the last 1 decade compared to 3 decades prior. This is the situation. That darkish brown basically represents 13 to 16 days a year, which is much more than earlier averages. Then you come to warm nights, which is a very important part of the calculation when you measure heat. And warm nights also increasing in largely the same area. Our big problem is if you look at the north, which is the Himalayas. So you're looking at the northernmost part and the northeasternmost part. These are rich forests, absolutely rich forests, and they're in the Himalayas, and that's where all the ice caps are. So if these are going to see hot days and warm nights rising in frequency, we are living with a serious catastrophe, a slow moving catastrophe on our hands. Now, if you look at the rain, this is the monsoon. So same excess rain in the western part of India and drying up of the Ganges, that is the Ganges and Brahmaputra plains. So it's not actual drying up. It's just that the frequency of the kind of absolute rain that these areas are getting in the last decade compared to 3 decades prior is much lower. So whether this is a long-term trend or not, we are seriously worried about it. So this is one of the best areas where we have serious large forests. These forests are, because of heat, getting attracting a serious number of forest fires. So this is all satellite imagery of picking up forest fires. We do this on an, I think, 8 hourly basis, and these alerts are sent out through early warning systems that are available to all the forest departments in the country. This is the a fire-prone map of the country, extremely fire-prone, in especially in Northeast India. These are hilly areas, and then in Central India. And this is November 21 to 22 map of the number of fires that actually happened. So number of fires, if you can see in the Northeast India, which is a hilly, less populated, very biosphere rich area, where for every kilometer you'll find one new species of biosphere, whether it's living or plant. And whereas on the northwestern side, you will find one in every 100 kilometers. So the richness and diversity in the Northeast are way higher. So you can well imagine the kind of concern that we have with regard to heat. Then these three things we use, satellite monitoring, we have several satellites up in the air. So with IMD's forecasting nodes, which are at on ground and satellite together, they've got a good system. Over 25 years, they've built a decent 7-day early warning system for cyclones and have very good alerts on heat. But taking those alerts down to the last wire to getting it to the last labor person who's working in the heat is something which is a bit of a challenge. And urban sensor networks and all these are all part of that. Then early warning systems need to evolve beyond pure meteorology. That is an understood term. But the 4 points that we are really pushing for are hyperlocal spatial mapping. Hyper for the simple reason because I mentioned earlier the extreme weather events. Extreme weather events are becoming a big problem, whether it's rain or whether it's heat. The urban heat island is increasing that by 5 degrees, 7 degrees in the most congested parts of cities. And it's increasing it even further within the slums, which have, metal sheets on them. So those living inside that metal sheet little dwelling are more exposed to heat than the ones the outside. Vulnerability weighted alert triggers. This is fairly well worked out, but we need to do more. Dissemination is something we are really working hard on, and what the future will tell us that we've got to figure out. At the bottom, we've got heat action plans. These are much advertised, much worked on. A lot of financing from all over the world comes for this. But heat action plans are something that the district magistrates who run the smallest part of a jurisdiction in every state in India have been doing for the last decades, several decades since even the colonial times. We have a lot of record of that, but we are trying to make them much more technically and expert oriented now. Then second last slide, this is the friction, the problems that we have, generating the early warning signal. Then the data silos, state may operate in a silo, center may be in a silo, different agencies may be in a silo. A private agency may have 1,000 sensors somewhere where they're not connected to the government agency. Transmission decay is a very serious issue, especially in the rain and flood issues. Language barriers, given that we have 15 registered main languages and then several other languages and dialects, it creates another serious complication. And then economic inability, that a guy right down on the field who has to work in the field when lightning warning is going out, but even if lightning warning is coming on his phone, he doesn't have a phone. And if he has a phone, he doesn't have a smartphone. And if he has a smartphone, he's advised to keep his phone away. So how does he know that there is a lightning early warning? And that's the last slide. So for taking forward our interaction, which we would definitely like to do alongside AIDMI and your organization, impact-based forecasting. We've heard a lot from scientists, but we want to really take it down to the wire. We want to bring it down, and finance the last mile is a very important part. Loss of livelihood, we've experimented with disaster risk finance, disaster risk insurance products, and those we've got the private companies involved. So we kept the government out because going through government always has its issues and processes. So we brought the private sector in. Now today, at least 10 companies are now offering parametric insurance programs for heat. AIDMI was one of the first ones after the earthquake in Kutch in the year 2001, which created the concept of catastrophic parametric insurance on heat. That concept has really grown and is now a commercial product in the country. It has a long way to go, but that's where we started. That's one field where we can really work on. And then for disaster risk financing, Government of India has a concept of 5 yearly finance commissions. So there's a $31.5 billion outlay for 5 years, which means about 6+ every year. But then it's divided into several categories, which I can explain if there is a question. Institutionalized data sharing, that's something which already happens through WMO and IMD does too, but I don't think it's happening between India's IMD and the African nations. So I will stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Rizvi. Your presentation has demonstrated that early warning signs are most effective when they are linked to practical actions that protect lives, health, and livelihood. Building on this foundation, we will now turn to another important dimension of heat resilience, the role of data, technology, and informed decision-making. Our next speaker is Dr. Elvis Shrejab, City's portfolio manager at the Clean Air Fund. His presentation focuses on data, technology, and decision-making for heat risk, exploring how climate information and innovation can help decision makers better understand and manage heat-related risk. Dr. Elvis, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandra, and thank you to the earlier presenter, Safi. I think I'll quickly share my presentation from here as I've made a few changes to the one I originally shared. So just a minute. Please do let me know if you can see my screen. Please, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
That's great.
Yes.
Thank you. So I would quickly just talk about my presentation will focus a lot more on what are the data that's available to us. And it will try and look at the data available to Ghana, to the West African region, and by extension, the Sub-Saharan African region. And then what kind of technologies that we can use and how it can help us decisions that we make. It's important to establish that of the world, individuals who work outdoor, women and children, older people, and then people who live in informal settlement. It's important to note that there is currently no clear definition when you come to, even though there's a government definition of urban, predominantly urban neighborhoods and low-income neighborhoods and high-income neighborhoods. What happens is that even if you go to these high-income and low-income neighborhoods, the data available shows that it's a mix where you have some individuals who may be low income living in informal settlements in high income neighborhoods. And so it brings to bear the fact that it's important to look at what data is available, how are we targeting the most exposed groups, where do they live, where can we find them, and how can we ensure that they have the needed information when it comes to dealing with extreme heat issues and how it impacts their health. It's important to also state that extreme heat risk goes beyond just the fact that we need the infrastructure. It's also something that comes to productivity issues. It has to do with the water and food systems, and then public health issues. In thinking about it, there is a huge data gap in this aspect. There is no data publicly available for indoor-outdoor relative heats for most countries in the sub-Saharan African region. What data most people have used in order to do extreme heat research and even policies is going to the satellite data, mainly the Landsat's land surface temperature, where they identify urban heat islands, and then use that to look at how people are affected or what extreme heat people are exposed to. The only challenge with that is that it doesn't allow anybody to tell, I may be living in a predominantly hot surface area, but what is the difference between the outdoor and indoor of where I live? Do I have cooler inner regions or do I have hotter inner regions, even in these areas? And what does it do to my health at the end of the day? Which is the second part of it. Most health related data does not look at where people live or where they work and what health issues they are reporting. And so often what would happen is the public health data will tell us health issues that probably are related to heat. But because we've not connected or we've not mapped where people live and where they work and the health issues that they are reporting, it is hard to have targeted public health interventions that would look at addressing the health impacts that people are experiencing or exposed group are experiencing due to the extreme heat that is happening. The other important aspect is most of the things that are happening to people, they would usually think of it as other things. When people experience heat rashes, when they get heat strokes, when they get CSM, cerebrospinal issues, they don't think of it as it's due to the fact that I'm exposed to extreme heat. But then they rather think it's other health issues that's probably accounting for the experiences that they are having or for the issues that they are dealing with. And so it's very important to understand that having a connection between the public health issues, having available data would go a long way to let us know what is happening to people and where are these people residing and how can we plan in order to protect them by the policies and the infrastructure that we're providing at the end of the day. In looking at how there can be some cross-regional collaboration, it is important to foster regional collaboration between India and Africa to strengthen heat resilience through risk-informed governance and early warning to early action community-centered adaptation. And one of the things we can learn from India India has a lot of satellite data where you can be able to have Landsats, which would give you at best your 30-kilometer, or if it's a Sentinel, which gives you at best 10 meters, where you have high resolution satellite images or even in situ local data on extreme heat events and extreme heat measurements. You're able to use that to build the interventions that you're going to do and the decisions that people should even take, as well as put in early warning measures and alerts to inform people's actions in that regard. One of the things is to share or exchange practices. It's important to look at what are the policies, what are the tools, and what are the experiences that are being employed or being used by India to address extreme heat risk, and how that can be used in the sub-Saharan African region or in the West African region. It's also important to look at actions. The actions that may be taken in India may probably be very different from the actions that will be taken in the sub-Saharan African region or in the West African region. It's important to understand that there's a lot of hawking, there's a lot of open market, and due to the difference in urban forms, you would also come to one important realization that people behave differently based on what they're exposed to. People take actions in order to ensure that their livelihoods are not cut off because they are being exposed to extreme heat. What are some of the measures that can be put in place that have worked in India, and how can we adapt them to the situations that we have in the sub-Saharan African region? The other important thing to also notice that the use of technology should not only be restricted to government-funded technology, but even things related to individual available technology. When you think of the fact that people have mobile phones, it's important for you to understand your mobile phone has that feature for you to receive information when it comes to early warnings. It also has that feature for you to report the self-impacted heat. It may not be a measurement of heat, but it's possible to develop tools that will let people report how hot and if they have any health impacts or any health issues due to the heat experiencing. What this would do is that it would reduce the reliance on central government or funded intervention. Often take a long time or never happen in most sub-Saharan African countries. And the reasons could be due to lack of funds or due to lack of that centralized technology to do such interventions. And so it's important to think of, in doing this, what are the ways we can do this? How can we build local capacity to enable communities to take action, to enable communities to adapt solutions that work? And what kind of trainings do we think we can put in place? It's not, when you think of the Ghana situation, where, or most African countries, there is very, very different languages that are spoken by different tribes. If you come to Ghana alone, there are over 80 different tribes, and most of these tribes have their own languages they speak. How are we ensuring that people have the information they need to deal with extreme heat in languages they understand? There is a population that is educated, but there's also a percentage that is not educated or that are not literate. What it means is that, are we going to say they are constantly going to be exposed or have no knowledge on issues when it comes to extreme heat? So it's important to think of what kind of training, what kind of tools, what kind of knowledge exchange that we can do. How has India navigated the language barrier where you have multiple languages? What have been the approach that has been adopted to ensure that people who speak multiple languages or different languages are still getting the same information and taking action in order to address their risk when it comes to extreme heat and the challenges that come to them? In coming to decision, it's important to understand that without having the needed data, you will not be making decisions that can go ahead to address the impacts that people are experiencing. So first is observing, monitoring what is the level of heat that is there. It goes without saying, when you look at most of the data that's available, that there is an increase in urban heat and there's an increase in ambient heat and surface heat. What are the specifics? We can only know this when we have various measurements through weather stations, through satellite data, and through community reports. In that, individuals who do not have temperature measurements for outdoor or indoor can still report what level of heat they're experiencing. And this can be a way to have some local data, especially in areas that do not have the funds, the technology, or even the resources to be able to do these measurements. Once we do these measurements, it's important to move them to the analysis stage where we're looking at various models, we're looking at AI assisted risk scoping tools, and we're looking at exposure mapping. Because if you say that the temperature in Lagos on a typical day is 40 degrees Celsius, yes, it's high for the average individual, but where is this happening? How many people are exposed? What activity are they engaged in? At the end of the day, are they people who are sitting in air-conditioned rooms or are they working outdoor? And what are the various adaptation measures that can be put in place? And then the forecast models go a long way to tell us very, very important tools we can use in the early warning plans. If you have had the last 12 months being a certain range of temperature, it's possible to know what the next 12 months is going to be. Given the different seasons and given the variabilities and uncertainties and error margins, you can be able to say these are the heat levels that you should be expecting to experience, and these are the various actions you can do, and these are the various tools or the various mechanisms you can put in place in order to protect your health or protect yourself. So what the analysis, what these forecasts will do is to give us an idea of what level of the data is telling us what. At which level do we see people having negative impact? What are the various responses that we expect from different individuals and different stakeholders? There's the response we expect the government to do. What do we expect people who are vulnerable to do? What do we expect people of a certain population group to do at the end of the day? And so once we have these measures, these protocols, and these tools in place, then we can begin to tell people that at this point of the day, you can go to this place or you can stop being at this location because of the heat levels, or find this cooling center or this cooling station to go to. One of the important things when it comes to the ACT part, which we should also think of, is it's important for us not to only look at the alert, the cooling options, and the protection. It's also important for us to think of the long-term actions we can do. The only way we can cool urban centers is to make sure we are providing green vegetation. If we do not have adequate green vegetation, there's no way we're going to be able to deal with the heat that is going to happen, irrespective of the cooling centers that we're going to put in place. So having the long-term plan of ensuring that we're growing more trees in urban areas, in public spaces, in order to even let them be a natural remedy to the heat that is happening, is one of the long-term acts that we can have in place. The land is where we now look at what people have done, what have they done when they were given these alerts, and how can we update the various protocols and the various thresholds that we've set in order to ensure that we are protecting not only the vulnerable population, but even people who did not utilize these actions, because we will then be able to know why they did not utilize it, what were the hindrances from them to utilize the alert, and go through the same cycle again until we have a certain success rate. We know that once people are aware of the heat levels and they know what they should do, they act on it, and it goes a long way to protect their health at the end of the day. It's also important to look at, when we think of what kind of architecture we're going to put in place when it comes to heat and dealing with it, it's important that whichever way we look at it, there has to be a very reliable, strong, scientifically proven data source. So forecast models, satellite imagery, weather stations are one of the most trusted ways we can get heat information and use that as a way of inputting into whatever architecture we're going to use at the end of the day. It's also important to not just stay at the heat data we get, but also to look at the health data that's available. What have been the health records? What percentage of them were related to heat from the various health facilities in communities? And how have people used them at the end of the day? Do people even report it when they have some health effect from being exposed to heat? And then there's a part where we need to make sure we have some data standards. when you have temperature measurements, what are the error margins from satellite? What are the error margins when you have your weather stations? Or what is the accuracy level from the tools that we are using? How do we ensure that people living in low-income communities are also having relevant information? So the geospatial aspect of it, where are people and what are they exposed to, and how can they respond to it? It's important to have the needed risk classification and what the uncertainty checks are. If you have various data from different places, how are we going to ensure that should there be any errors, we are adequately accounting for the errors and going a long way to ensure that we're getting reliable data that can inform actions? Once we've done all of this, it's important to have public access to this kind of dashboards, to this kind of tools, to this kind of information. And so we need to encourage the use of these tools. And it's also good to look at how are we going to use localized alerts. If you go to some rural communities, they have these local broadcast stations where they do morning broadcast of the weather and of what people can do to protect themselves when they go to their farms. And it can be an information that can be added to it, where people can go a long way and say, if you're going to be out for this period, you need to carry an umbrella along, or you need to carry this amount of water along, and what you should do when you get certain triggers at the end of the day, and how we can fund some of these, because not everybody can afford these triggers or these solutions that we propose. Are we thinking of having some form of subsidy, some economic support at the end of the day, so that when we put out actions, we know that even people who are not socioeconomically empowered can still take action against the heat that they are exposed to, because there is a way to say we're distributing water bottles, or we're distributing umbrellas, or we're distributing XYZ at the end of the day to protect the vulnerable population and people who are at risk the most from being exposed to extreme heat. In looking at some of these tools, it's important to have the localized heat risk map, because that will tell everybody living in a certain area what is the level of risk I'm exposed to, and where can I find resources that would reduce my risk, or where would I need to go if I want to reduce my level of exposure at the end of the day. Forecast to threshold levels. If we set threshold levels and say, if the temperatures go beyond 35 degrees, what do you need to do? What are the actions that have to be done? Who has to do what? What do various agencies have to do, and what do communities have to do? Once these are set out, the moment these levels are triggered, we know everybody's aware of what actions and what tools they need to go to achieve a certain result. And then mobile and community messaging. It's important to understand that we need to listen to what people say and how they understand the information that we are putting out there. So there is the tool that is used in our public health system. If you go to most sub-Saharan African countries, called the is a health promotion tool, where they go at dawn to do broadcast, at night to do broadcast, and talk about vaccinations and talk about antenatal visits, and even do house-to-house visits. It's important to incorporate this when we need to think of dealing with extreme heat. Use the tools available, use the systems that are existing, and incorporate the extreme heat alerts and actions into them. In that way, we will not need to reinvent the wheel, and we will not need to build trust with people who already trust the systems that are there. But they know that if they depend on the information that they are being given by the public health officers who come to their houses, who do the dawn broadcast, who do the antenatal visits, they will be protected and their health will be protected. The use of AI will go a long way to reduce the man time in analyzing and looking at people's actions. By looking at wide geodata, you can be able to tell when the temperature increased, where were the most people, using various tools that are available to us. It could be telephony, it could be movement, it could be satellite imagery. You can then be able to see. Yes, please. How much time do I have?
Well, I think it's up.
Your time is
It's
up.
I'll try and rush through. Thank you. I have about one more slide to go. And then there's also the the part where you need to look at how people are using the information you're putting out there and what kind of financial support you're giving to people who cannot afford the actions that you're putting in place at the end of the day, so that they can be able to get the needed protection from extreme heat in their area. I'll just jump off to the community-centered action, where we want to say for people to be able to use the knowledge, the data that we're putting out there, we need to create awareness, we need to train them on what they should do. We need to make sure this is data that comes from their communities, their surroundings, and so ownership of it, not just think of it as it belongs to X institution or Y institution. And we need to consciously make sure we are targeting vulnerable groups and vulnerable individuals and ensuring that they are protected from issues of extreme heat and the health effect that comes with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Elvis, for highlighting how technology and data can strengthen planning, improve preparedness, and support evidence-based decision-making. That brings us to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Ms. Balkis Salidin Ibrahim. She'll be presenting on behalf of Richard Marty. Ms. Balkis is the Climate Director at GAIO, which is Green African Youth Organization. She's also an agri-business entrepreneur and a social impact strategist with over 9 years of experience driving sustainable solutions across Africa. Today, she'll be speaking on youth-led and community-centered heat adaptation. Ms. Balkis, please, the floor is yours. Hello. If she's not here, then we'll move to our next speaker, Ms. Rehana Ben Rihawala. Sorry if I said your name. She's the Chief Executive Officer of Press Trading Network.
Madam Bilkis is there. Actually, she's waving. I don't know if you can't hear her, but she's there.
Oh, sorry. I didn't hear her speak. Ms. Balikis, please, the floor is yours.
But we can't hear you, ma'am. Balikis.
We can't hear.
Hello. Hello.
We can hear you, ma'am.
Oh, hello.
Maybe we should move to the next speaker while she prepares herself. Our next speaker is Miss Rehana Ben Rihawala.
Hello,
She's
is it audible?
Yes, it is. Please.
Yes, yes. Please go ahead.
Progress.
Rehana Riyawala from Association. Namaste and good afternoon and good evening to everyone. I'm Rehana Riyawala from Self-Employed Women Association and point women because there are also 20 states in India. First, I'll thank AIDMI to invite and livelihoods, which is important, especially this particular season where the poor workers from informal economy are experiencing that. So I'll be talking more about the voices of the 3.8 million poor workers associated with SEVA across 20 states of India. Just a bit of introduction as many of may be aware of it, but then we are 3.8. We are SEVA is a member-based organization in India, and we organize poor women workers with twin goals of full employment and self-reliance. When we say self-reliance, it's not only just economic self-reliance, but then we also see that how does the decision to work full employment means livelihood security alongside food security, social security, at least because years of like while we 50 years we have been working when we were discussing how do we celebrate 50 years. So this 11 so building all because most of our members were affected by that, whether they be workers or home-based workers. And so we launched Swachh Akash campaign with three basic fundamental principles, which is security, and grassroots trading
Voice is not
network
clear.
with strengthening of greens and neighborhoods building not resilience for the members of SEVA. So talking about the and the actually
Rehana Ben, the voice is not clear.
in India that almost 1,000 growth in India due to heat this June
I think
10,000 plus heat.
Rihanna ma'am, I think your voice is breaking, so we are able to see your presentation, but we can't hear you clearly. So maybe. Hello, ma'am. Can you hear us, Rihanna ma'am? Rihanna ma'am.
Person in India.
Can you hear us, Rihanna ma'am?
40 million is lost. Heat exposed.
Can someone call her and maybe we can go to another speaker?
Okay, let me try switching on to the another device. Just give me a second.
Yeah, maybe.
Is this okay now?
Yes, much better.
Yeah, right now it's okay, ma'am. Please carry on and then we'll just after 10 seconds, please check back with us.
Okay, is it okay now?
Yeah, okay. Second time, okay.
Yes, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can start from here.
The next slide, please. Okay, so talking about the data and the experiences of our members says that 41,000 heat strokes cases in India are in March to registered in March to June. 10,000 plus had heat related deaths are recorded, and the rise in each decade is almost around 34%. 2,400 hours of average annual heat states exposure per person is been. Oh, is it so? Is it not clear yet?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. We can see this. Please carry on.
Okay, or else I can turn off the video and then if it could be better.
Now, if we turn off the video, then we won't see your screen, no?
No, Manish is sharing the screen, so that should
Okay,
be
yeah,
fine.
please do that. Please do that.
Okay.
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah. So most of our members are affected, and it has been experienced that 92% heat-related illness during the heat waves. 90% says that extreme heat severely damages their livelihood. 96% report sleep disruption during the peak heat. And this is again, which is not much talked about, but then we can see the unfeel toll on the members' health as well as the livelihoods as well because of the sleep disruptions. 50% of the income drop during the heat wave months, and 79% decline in the daily productivity during the extreme heats has been experienced by the members of SEVA. Um, So next comes is these are some of our voices of our members, wherein it has been experienced that heat is not just a weather event, but it's an economic crisis, a health emergency, and a justice issue for these women workers. Savitaben Patni, a street vendor, shares that her earnings dropped by almost 50% during the heat season. Josna Ben, one of our head loader in the city of Ahmedabad, shared spending on doctors has led to loss of wages, and this cannot be just afforded. And so she would continue working, otherwise her family would go hungry. So this is what the situation at the ground for the informal worker is. Similar to this, one of the most vulnerable trade is the salt pan workers. So Subhan Ben from the Little Run of Kutch shares the importance of her body as an asset because they have to work even at the temperature of 52 degrees centigrade, and that too in the open desert, which would feel much more than 52 degree if you visit that desert area. And so this is how like the body, the income, the livelihood, the savings of the members are affected during the heat season. And can you go to the next? Thus, the effect of heat is in the lives of the women members, and it's manifold. It affects their body and health, it affects their income and work, it affects the food and nutrition, mind and well being, and most importantly, we should not forget the vicious circle which pull them in more and more vulnerable situations because of such disasters. So at Seva, experiencing these over a period of years, we have been working on community-centered approaches, and so few of the areas wherein we have been working with respect to the holistic approach is we have a pool of 400 plus health ambassadors who conduct home visits, screen for chronic conditions, share early warnings, and guide the members how to take care in such situations. We have been since 2020. We have started teleconsultations wherein the members could connect with the doctors and get an access during the health crisis. Even if the clinics are closed during the extreme heat waves, floods, or cyclone-related situations. But then we ensure that the access to the doctor is available to our members. Next one, which we have been working, is like we organize health camps within the community members themselves. Um, we conduct health camps to treat heat exhaustion, dehydration, UTIs, and infection right where the members lives in. And so we also have trained our members on what should they be doing, the preventing measure, what should they be taking during such situations, and so on. Another major initiative, community-based approach, we have been working on climate mitigation and adaptation at the source, wherein under our Green Villages and Green Chawl initiative, we have promoted several solutions that reduces heat exposure and provide clean and green energy solutions, which includes insulated water jugs for these informal economy workers, especially the members who are head loaders, street vendors. Then we have the solar lamps and lanterns for our members. We have the cool roofs done, which would decrease the temperature for 3 to 5 degrees, uh, and many more of such initiatives like rooftop gardens or say the whales across the streets and so on. So we have such working in 500 such villages and 15 wards in the urban area. Um, and one of the most important initiative which we are working on is also climate finance and health finance. So under this, some of the important aspect of this is parametric climate insurance, uh, wherein we have linked our members. We have started piloted that in 2023, and today we have more than 5 lakh members associated with the parametric climate health insurance. And of course, like we have been learning from our experiences and the challenges faced. So, looking into the challenges and the key drawbacks, wherein the basis risk exists in the non-payout years, and the impact of the long-term financial sustainability, we have launched the climate welfare facilities, uh, which is a community owned fund. It's not a product to be sold to the communities, but then it's a members pool wherein they contribute to cover premiums, fund early warning, finance clean water, and create a shared buffer against any climate shock. So it's the savings of the members. They save 1 day saving per month, and this comes to the climate pool and climate welfare facilities, and that is how the payout has helped them during the difficult situation. And the next one, which we have been working a lot, is also livelihood risk reduction fund, wherein the members who are affected are supported with the most affected members are supported with the interest-free emergency advances during the crisis. Because what happens at the time of crisis is that they would rely upon the funds which is easily available and uh, speedily available, and that goes for the trade money lenders or say the traders, which would come up in a very high rate of interest. And so at seva we had started with livelihood risk reduction fund, which is an interest free emergency advances during this crisis situation, which could be used for hospitals, medicines, nutrition of the members and their families, and even uh, to work for their livelihoods or support their livelihoods as well. And we could see that almost around 99% of the repayment is being done because it is very quick and could be given to the members immediately at the time of crisis. So talking about the impact of the community based on the initiative that has been supported, we could see that the payouts has been received by the members through the parametric hit insurance, climate welfare facilities. We see that the health emergencies are taken care through the health camps. The members are supported through LRRF, and the savings in cost savings have been increased, and the livelihoods has also been increased. So there are huge benefits and the impact of the initiative which we have been working on over a period of years, and then we have been exploring and piloting new initiatives like based on our learnings and challenges. So this is how we are growing um, over there. So talking about what are the key asks or what needs to be changed, of course, the early warning systems that actually reaches the woman. So the heat alerts must reach the women workers at the last mile through trusted community channels and local networks, like the community-based organization, the leaders who are trusted by the communities, and so on. So this would be the fastest and most reliable last mile connections which we should be having. Secondly, I'll talk about scaling up the climate health finance for the informal workers and expand the parametric insurance, community welfare funds, and concessional climate loans to reach the informal economy workers who currently have no financial safety or safety net during the climate shocks. Thirdly, I'll talk about formalize and fund community health cadres. As we have Seva health ambassadors which deliver uh, were clinically proven outcomes, we should invest in them. The community health workers are not a stopgap, but they are the system that works at the community level and reach at the last mile. Fourthly, I'll talk about recognizing heat as a workplace hazard because the informal economy workers have no occupational safety net, and heat must be named at the health risk in national labor and health policies, which would lead to the protection of these informal workers, and not just the advisories should be issued, but then they should be included in the labor and the health policies as well. The next one is gender responsive climate finance, because woman is the one who bear the greatest burden of the climate shocks, and yet they are the least one to receive the climate finance. So how do we have the
Please get ready to run up to summarize your presentation, please.
Yeah, sure. This is my last slide, the last 2 points. So we need to work upon community welfare facilities, micro insurance, and emergency credit, dignified emergency credit for the informal economy workers, especially the women, and financing for the adoption of clean and green energy technology solution. Last but not the least, we because we have the trust and we have the evidence, the community should lead that. So it should be a top down. It shouldn't be a bottom up approach, which should be working with reference to data collection, census studies, and community feedback. So the policy reflects the bottom up approach and the actual experiences what the grassroots members have been facing. And lastly, I'll also talk about, as mentioned by Mr. Elvis from Ghana, like we are happy. It has been great pleasure to be here, and it's happy to share our experiences with uh, other African countries and other counterparts in India as well. And we would be happy to collaborate for knowledge sharing and support in taking this forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Rihanna. Before we proceed, I would like to encourage our participants to share their questions and reflections in the chat. We will compile them and address them during the questions and answers session. Yeah. We will move to our next speaker, Ms. Balikis. Please, the floor is yours.
Sandra, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's fine. So sorry, I don't know why you were not hearing me the other time. Thank you so much. So, my colleague is going to be sharing my slide. Kemi, let's go ahead. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here to run you through the work that we do at Green African Youth Organization, especially around health, resilience for communities that are the most vulnerable. So today I'm going to be taking us through what is the reality, what is actually happening on the ground, especially for us in sub-Saharan Africa. When Dr. Elvis was speaking the other time, he made reference to how some cities are hotter than each other. And the funniest thing is we are currently experiencing rain in large part of the Western African countries. In fact, there had been a lot of reports around flood due to rain in Accra, but that doesn't mean that in the afternoon, the weather is not as hot as something else. So you can see that as much as we're experiencing an heavy pour, we're still experiencing a very, very hot weather here in Africa. So the warming is getting higher by the day, and statistics have shown that by 2030, up to 118 million vulnerable Africans could be exposed to extreme heat. And we had to use the word could because we believe that when we're able to take proactive action, we might not need to get to this point. Informal workers and women traders often spend longer hours outdoor and work without shade. And I think looking at the picture on my screen right now, one of the things that I realized that we didn't even capture when it comes to informal workers are the informal workers that use the wheelbarrow to sell things and they move around. You know, they are the ones that, in fact, I think experience the more heat because they don't have stability. They have to move from one location to another just to be able to sell their goods to people. So you see them moving everywhere, selling gadgets, selling clothes, selling fruits, you know, and vegetables that we consume. And we've seen that it is now, you know, a case of it is strengthening our health, our well-being, and our productivity, and in fact our income, because now people that want to patronize some of these individuals in the market or on the roadside, they're skeptical about going out during the sunny weather. They would rather prefer to go in the evening, and maybe some persons have closed. And so there's a lot of instability when it comes to the socioeconomy of our region in Africa. Next slide. Next slide, Kemi. All right, so what are we doing to bridge this gap? As I said, we are solution-oriented organization, although we're a youth-led organization, but as much as we see that there are a lot of problems that exist in all diverse of life, we also see a lot of opportunities that we can harness from it. So we currently have a project that is ongoing, which is speaking directly to it, which is the Ghana Eat Awareness, and sorry about that error on hat, Eat Awareness and Market Shade Infrastructure, the ERA project. And this partnership is one of the strongest because it is actually speaking to from moving from talking at panel sessions, policy document, to really building infrastructures that last and can solve this problem. So the goal is to reduce heat-related health risk and economic losses among informal women workers through, you know, heat vulnerable assessment, awareness and capacity building, climate smart shade infrastructure, and sustainable cooling solutions. So if you look at the image on my screen, this is like an idea of what we're trying to build currently now in Accra. You see that there's some women seated there and there's a cold room behind them. So we're trying to kill two birds with one stone by saying, okay, we know that sometimes some of these market women or market men, they are not able to sell their vegetables or their peppers, and these are, these are horticultural produce that get rotten so fast. So can we provide them with a cooling infrastructure that they can store their veggies, their meats, their fish till the following morning, and they can continue to sell in good condition, while also having a sitting area for people that are going to the market and probably tired and just need the shade to sit down or something. So that is the idea we're trying to portray here, with the cold room as well as a sit out in a very nice setting. Next slide, Kemi. So that's about the AERC project we're currently working on in Accra. Next slide, Kemi. I don't want to move faster than the slide. Okay. So what we're doing is, as much as it's innovative, inspiring, it is also community-led. So we have a participatory decision-making process, stakeholder engagement to community mapping, baseline assessment. So we're not just going into community and into market and say, oh, we want to do this for you because we see that you're experiencing so much hate, but we're saying that we're co-creating solutions together with communities, with stakeholders, with government, so that there is this sense of ownership and sense of acceptance at the end of the day. Next slide. So the activities that we have lined up under this is, under the AERC project currently, is the Eat Health campaign. Most of the time we sit down on our Google Meet, on our Zoom, at conferences talking about it, but the people that are actually experiencing it, they don't actually understand it. They don't even know that this is a major problem to their health, to their well-being, to their social economy and the like. So we're saying that we're going to be running an Eat Health campaign, community sensitization and engagement, as well as radio outreach. We all understand that in Africa, you cannot take a man away from his radio. We love to listen to news, especially in the morning. You know, a woman is at the market trying to pull out his a market, you know, spread them so that you can see it and come and buy. But at the same time, there's a radio playing inside the shop. So that is what we're using the media approach, specifically radio, because we know a lot of people listen. If you're inside the bus and you're going out, there's definitely a high chance that the driver is playing a radio program. If it's not playing, you know, some nice Afro beats and the likes, then we are going to be ending it with some training workshops, you know, building capacity for people in rural community and marketplaces, as well as stakeholders, to help them understand the urgency that we are experiencing right now when it comes to heat waves in Africa. So the infrastructure is expected to have, you know, quite a number of interesting impacts, which I really, I assume I'm so excited about it. So one, we're looking at creating a 2 to 3 shared infrastructure, and also, you know, these things are not quite, they're not cheap. They don't come cheap. It's quite expensive. So we're looking at starting with about between 1 to 3 shared infrastructure, a solar powered component. So we're not relying on you know, generator that is powered by fossil fuel, because we want to use this. This is also a climate crisis, right? So whatever solution we're creating or co-creating needs to be climate oriented, climate action driven. So we're also going to be having the integration of the cold storage solution, just as I explained earlier, around how the market woman and the market men can store their leftover produce that they didn't sell, so it doesn't get rotten, into the cold room, and the following morning they can quickly sell it again in a very, very good condition. Then we're looking at how can we start having climate resilient marketplaces. We don't just go to market to buy things. We go to markets that are climate resilient, that we feel comfortable in. Then by 2027, we're hoping that we would have been able to reach over 5,000 people monthly, because of the volume of people that visit each of these markets in Accra. then more than 60% women would have been reached, and 200 workers, women and youth, would have been trained on the importance of this infrastructure, how to manage it, and how we can continue to co-create actions together. 4 community engagement workshops, 1 baseline assessment report, 4 to 5 impact stories, as well as documentary and community stories, amplifying women voices. So we're going to be producing a story, not just a documentary, a story that speaks to how women are resilient, how young people are resilient, how men are resilient in the face of it in Africa. So what we are learning in this particular journey that we started is its adaptation must be community-led. It cannot be a Gaio thing. It cannot be a Clean Air Fund thing, which Clean Air is also one of our partners at Gaio. It cannot be an individual effort. It has to be a collective effort. Women workers must be prioritized, right? Because they make the largest number of people. When you go to any market today, be it local or advanced, even if you go to shopping malls, you see women are the ones that are there. So women makes up this number. So we must prioritize them, not because of gender inequality, but because we have seen the number and we see that women needs to be prioritized. Youth must be empowered to start thinking climate innovations beyond just the usual way of doing climate action. Then infrastructure and awareness must go together. So this is not about us going to communities and say, we know this is happening, we want to co-create this with you. We're saying that we want to co-create it with you, we want to build infrastructure with you. So at the point of us carrying cement and blocks and wood and whatever, solar panels, we're going to be doing it together with the community, with the men, with the women, with the youth in each of the market and the government. So these are like some of the lessons that we're gathering in the process of the ERA project. So I think just to say this, that we're hoping that we would have as much people collaborate with us at Gaio to see how we can strengthen this infrastructure. I was really inspired by the previous speaker where she highlighted the community they represent in India. These are things that we can start seeing. How can we drive cross-country collaborations and lessons learned? And these are things that we're really passionate about at Gaio, to collaborate and co-create together. So thank you so much. And I'll put my emails in the chat so that if you want to reach out to us, please feel free to do so. Thank you so much. Sandra, over to you.
Thank you very much. We'll move to the next section, which is the questions and answers. Please, before that, thank you to all our speakers for the information. We'll move to the questions and answers and open discussion segment. These all participants are invited to post questions in the chat or use the hand function if you would like to speak. And please keep the questions brief and indicate if your question is directed to a particular speaker. Please, we have only 20 minutes to do that.
Hello, madam.
Hello.
I have one question. What is the role of WHO in this matter? What is the role of WHO?
Please, we cannot hear what you were saying.
What is the role of WHO?
Yeah.
Come again.
What is the role of WHO, World Health Organization?
So that's, I think I heard your question very correctly. I'm not the WHO rep or an expert, but I think from the current project that we are doing at GAIO, we're seeing it as a health problem, as a health-related crisis, right? So part of our strategy is to see how we can work with multiple stakeholders, not just in the climate space, but also in the health space. And WHO is one of like our top priority of organizations that we're looking to share feedback, assessment of our baseline studies with, to help them understand the urgency around this. And I'm very sure that now that we see that WHO is interested a lot around well-being, mental health, and the likes, and even how climate crisis is affecting our well-being, I'm sure that it is also definitely part of something that they're working on. So maybe subsequent session can bring WHO into the conversation so that we can really hear what they have and what they're doing currently. Yeah. Over to you, Parana.
Right, madam.
Please, any other questions? Yeah, Mr. Pranav, please go ahead.
Yeah, so less of a question, more of a comment on the entire kind of UN system participation in this heat stress. So this is obviously, so this is more, I mean, this is a topic of interest, and it was very heartening to listen to presentations by Safi Rizvi and colleagues from Ghana, and involvement of both. So we at the I work for the International Labour Organization, and we have a specialized unit focused on access to finance and focusing on insurance products. So it was heartening to listen about the growing importance of parametric insurance, and we have been kind of supporting projects not just for human health, and we've just released a paper on SEVA, which I think I've given the link in the chat box that can be perused, but also for dairy animals on reduced productivity during heat days and how insurance can help prevent incomes for dairy farmers because dairy animals get impacted with this. In addition to this, on the entire OSH side, the occupational safety and health, there has been a lot of work done, and the ILO has 2 papers that have been released, published on this. I can share the links to these 2, and would be very happy to engage with organizations presented here and related with the work that we do in Ghana on agriculture insurance, which is of course all parametric related, with the NIC in Ghana, and happy to work in coordination with AIDMI for this. So I'll just raise my hand for this and look forward to continuing the interactions in the times. Thank you very much for organization of this webinar.
Thank you. We have a question in the chat box from Sneha, sorry. Any separate studies or interactions with people with disability in Ghana to understand the nuances of heat impact, and also if any action is taken by the government? I think this is addressed to Dr. Elvis. Or if any of the speakers can address that question. Sorry, Bali, please, do you have any idea?
I think one of the things that comes to mind is at the point of us developing this project, we realized that there is not so much data and information around it. So even in fact now breaking it down to persons with disability, I think it might be a little difficult, but one of the things that we're trying to do with our project is to bridge that gap between impact and data. So all of our activities will be well documented so that we have as much data to be able to report on, and I think these informations can be available. But what I can also suggest, I was hoping if Dr. Elvis also have any idea, is to drop my email, and when we see any resources that is related, especially from the government, since we're going to be working with them on this project, and we're going to be asking them from for different resources that we can leverage on that is already existing. I'm sure we should be able to get some little resources that we can share with SNARE. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Balikis. There's another question to Balikis. It says, what kind of people or professionals are concerned by your training workshops?
So for our training workshops, we're looking at informal workers, we're looking at professionals, advocates, any individuals that is interested in the EAT conversation, because I think this conversation is just coming up now, and many of us have had sunburn without us knowing that this is it, right? We're not able to link it with it. Many times we've opened our curtains at night because of the it, but we're not able to streamline it to having it at this high level discussion. So I think individuals that are interested in the conversation, that work in the space, that are professional in the space, but also importantly, informal workers. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Mr. Miher, please, your hand is up.
This is more less of a question and more of a direction that I have picked up from the excellent presentations, both from India's side, national and very much grassroots, and from Africa's side, both technical as well as what's actually working on the ground in a very youthful, energetic manner. And what comes to what is sort of striking is so much common between the two in terms of urban cooling and heat action plan or planning activities that are going on. And that's something I picked up as a parallel. Second was on agriculture and food security, not necessarily articulated in that way, but that's another area which I thought both India and Africa link around extreme heat would be very, very useful. IIT Madras, IIT Delhi, IND, Indian Meteorological Department work here in India. I'm not quite sure if they have direct link with African counterpart, but health systems and early warning. These are the other areas which seem very much on top. Yeah, these three were quite striking for me to see that there is just sort of it's this close. It needs to actually lock and actually start doing work. Thank you. Thank you for each of the presentations. They are very much useful for the foundation to build so much on this.
Thank you, Mr. Miher. If there are no other questions, we'll move into the closing remarks since we are far behind time. So we introduce Dr. Dennis Nkala. Please, the floor is yours. Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
Can I come in for? Is Mr. Dennis speaking?
Okay, sure.
Yeah, please, Mr. Dennis, carry on.
Oh, I'm doing the closing remarks for. So if you have something, maybe you better come first.
Yeah. So just before your closing remarks, I'd like to make just 2 points for consideration of this group. Is one that since we've had very interesting discussions and a fair bit of degree of commonality, possibly we could put together, this group could put together a little small report of common interests, and maybe an even smaller group of working people Those above 60 are disqualified because they're not known as working people. But definitely the younger ones at 30 and below could do all the legwork for this, and possibly by the end of next month we could take a deeper look at what that report is all about and have another meeting, and then we could start connecting our national organizations, if they are not connected, with national organizations in Africa. One thing that really comes to mind is CDRI, the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. They have 12 members from African nations, and Ghana is already a member. So we can use that as a government link to take the work forward, because I don't think CDRI is working on heat with the African nations. So that in sum total is my suggestion.
Thank you. Dr. Nkala, please, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. Greetings in Accra, and good evening to people in Asia Pacific and India. I was tasked with giving a take on this discussion, and also talking about a possible way forward relating to South-South cooperation. So let me start first with my take on the discussion, and both Mihe and Rizvi have already summarized some part of it. When you take that into account, it's important to follow up. What we witnessed was a good balance between policy level discussion and community level action. And in both continents, there seem to be some activities that are going on in terms of policy and community level action, but also some challenges were identified which we could look at. And then the second thing was that there is evidence of rapid expansion of tropical, subtropical heat anomalies, and hot areas are getting even hotter. And extreme heat is no longer a single sector issue. I think a lot of people have talked about this, touching on public health, labor productivity and livelihoods, food security, water systems, infrastructure, and our ecosystems, including, we talk about the not to forget the animals as well. And in all this, one speaker emphasized that the data that we collect should be able to help us connect, make the interconnection and the linkages between these sectors, and so that we address the issues in a more wholesome way. The third take was that this hazard also interacts with many vulnerabilities that already exist, especially in developing countries, including crowded cities, and the fact that we are all trying to pursue development, and sometimes issues like this are not are not at the forefront of people that are making the policy. And as an economist, I would dare to say that in terms of allocation of resources, also there is a challenge there. But I'll conclude this section by quoting what one person said. He said, "We have a slow-moving catastrophe in our hands. And the important thing is to make sure that we are not left behind, but to try to stay ahead of it." The second part was to try to look at more positive aspects of where we are with this. And a couple of speakers really gave us something to think about in terms of what is happening already. Even though data collection was prominent, and there are lots of ways that we could improve on it, we realized that there is data collection that is taking place. And in particular, an example from the communities on how heat affects them, the documentation of heat impact on the various sectors, community-based approaches, including health ambassadors, teleconsultations, mitigation, such as rooftop gardens. We also saw financial solutions such as insurance, climate welfare facility, livelihood, risk reduction funds. These are very important because we can see that a lot is already happening. and we do not have to reinvent the wheel. We have to continue this dialogue. And indeed, each of the things that we mentioned could be a round table by itself because there's so much rich data that was put forward. My third part was to try to take note of some of the gaps. A need for early warning systems that reach the vulnerable and women. And the last speaker was very specific on the emphasis on women. And for me, I would add from an intuitive point of view that even the vulnerable, the elderly, most of the time they are taking care of the women in the communities, which emphasizes that, yes, we should look at the vulnerable and the women. There was an emphasis on technical know-how. We have to share knowledge, and there was a mention that we need to go beyond meteorology. And in this aspect, there's an element of technology. And in the work that we do in every sector, there is always an element of technology. And we know that there is a lot of technology being developed, but technology from the South would be particularly useful in this case. And then climate change, climate health finances should reach the informal workers and other workers. And we should emphasize funds for community health helpers so that they are funded. They are not only there, but they can actually do their work. And to recognize heat as a workplace hazard and have gender responsive climate finance. There were other issues that are interesting, particularly letting communities take the lead in evidence. When I was working with AIDMI and I was in the UN, we had a project where with very little resources, we're able to bring communities to the round tables like this one for them to talk to for themselves in terms of the issues they make. And also sharing sometimes their experiences in recovering from disasters and so on. So we should really look to strengthen the story from the communities themselves. And of course, there was, let's not forget the ecosystem. And then again, that in sub-Saharan Africa, there is an issue of communication. There are so many languages. How do we reach out to people? There was even a statement that sometimes people don't understand what is hitting them, what is happening to them. And so if there's that limitation in language, how do we reach out to them? Chair, I hope I still have some time. I go to part 4 of my 5 parts of the presentation. And that is when you have diagnosed the program, when you have looked at the issues that should be taken into account, what do you do next? Because if you look at all these suggestions, the issues that were put on the table, it takes a lot. And when I used to work for the UN on South-South cooperation, I used to love to listen to people who have already synthesized the issues because they're experts in the various areas, and to help them to scale up. Because we would ask the question, what do you need us to do? We're not experts, but they would need us to help them to scale up. And unfortunately today, I know there's a presentation from ILO, which was very positive, and I hope that we can get more people working with us from the UN. But we have to take cognizance that we live in a day when resources are shrinking, and it's becoming very difficult to get resources. And whatever resources we have, we need to stretch those resources. And so that brings me to my final point, which is how we could possibly do that. That's my part 5. There was a clear call for collaboration between India and Africa, and it could even be broader. But what I wanted to mention is that this dialogue can continue. We could actually try to do more. That's why I wanted to speak about South-South cooperation. My experience in speaking about South-South cooperation is I found that most people did not quite understand what it was. Some of you may have heard about technical cooperation among developing countries. Well, if you take that and you add economic cooperation, then you have South-South cooperation. It is built on principles by our member states from the South that we need to cooperate and share resources for mutual benefit. So whatever you have, you share. Whatever I have, I share. And it happens a lot. A lot of us may not be aware for it, about this. Sometimes it starts with the head of state or head of government going to another country and saying something that is interesting and saying, we would like to have this as well in our country. And so what I'm proposing, and it links very closely with what Rizvi said, is to have maybe a smaller group of people thinking about what can possibly be the outcome of this roundtable, and to try to put a systematic proposal that can be looked at. I have lived through this experience with the African Engineers Association. We're trying to work with the, I think it was the India Engineering College, where there was a discussion with both sides agreeing on and limiting the areas that we could possibly look at and to put together a proposal that is then shared. As I said, it's difficult times right now, but basically the countries of the South recognize that maybe the message of South-South cooperation is more relevant than ever. And so if we can try to focus on this issue and move forward through South-South cooperation, I would be willing to work with the AIDMI to provide that support on South-South cooperation. But of course, you are the experts in the area and the guidance will be necessary for us to move forward. So let me stop there. It's difficult to try to summarize such a rich discussion which took place in more than 1.5 hours in a few minutes. But thank you very much to the organizers, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Nkala. On behalf of the organizers, we would like to sincerely thank all the speakers, participants, and partners for contributing to today's discussions. We hope that the lessons and experiences shared today will strengthen collaboration and inspire practical actions on heat resilience across India and Africa. Thank you all for your participation, and we wish you a wonderful day. On that note, and here. Before we leave, please, can we take a group picture? You may turn on your cameras. And please put on a smile.
Some people have way better smiles than many other people.
That's true.
You got your picture, Sandra?
Yeah. Anishra is taking as well.
Yeah, done.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Namaskar to all. Namaskar. Namaskar. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir. Hey. But it was message.
Dennis, sir, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And bye-bye again. Come on.